what we're trying to do to say, let's create avenues where the best resources are available and accessible to the people that need it. Because to really benefit from these, you might need months and years. It took me almost 2 years to raise my right hand above my head. So, I mean, neuro recovery, it's a process. We really want to make sure that all, like you said, all of the technological interventions that are going to be taking place over the next decade are going to be put in a place to help people.
Welcome to Bostic Health, where we challenge the business of healthcare and explore bold ideas that drive meaningful change. Each week, we bring you candid conversations with top experts, innovators, and leaders, exploring the latest trends and technologies shaping the future of healthcare. Join us and be part of the conversation in transforming healthcare. Well, hello and welcome back. This is episode 60 of Bostic Health. I'm your host, Bradley Bostic. I'm joined today by Chris Leeuw, who's returning after, it's been about a year since he was on last. Chris is the CEO of NeuroHope. Welcome back to Bostic Health, Chris.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. Always great to talk.
Now, Chris and I are kind of besties from way back in the day. I had a startup back in the 2005, 2006 timeframe that Chris ended up joining. And it's really interesting. That startup, which was called Cha-Cha, was basically what ChatGPT is. It just didn't have the kind of AI horsepower. You could ask any question and get an answer back. And I have such great memories of, even though the business didn't end up playing out the way we would have ideally seen it play out, Chris and I, we've been through some fun together, and I've seen your career progress, and I'll never forget the great contributions you made in that startup. So just wanted to lead off by thanking you for that.
Absolutely. It was amazing to be a part of. So and keeping in touch with a lot of the people from back in then. You created an amazing team and culture there that you've brought over to HC1 and some of the other ventures too.
Yeah, a lot of talent ended up going all over Indiana and all over the country that are doing really cool things. So in any event, getting to the main topic, Chris's passion, if you recall from his first episode, is around really helping. Well, initially it was with spinal cord injury, but now it's really anything from spinal cord injury to brain injury to stroke, all these different conditions that lead to having an impairment in your physical ability and probably in some ways also, cognitive capabilities that folks have. And from this tragedy that Chris went through, where he was paralyzed in an accident, where you were out having a great time with friends and jumped into the water and had another individual unwittingly land on your head, broke your neck, and miraculously you got through that with some extended rehabilitation. And then you said, you know what, I'm going to get back out there and become an entrepreneur in this specific area to help other people who face this long road to recovery and hopefully make it more successful and faster. And since the last time we spoke, you have dramatically expanded what you're doing with NeuroHope, which is headquartered in Indianapolis. Why don't you talk a bit about what's happened in terms of both this fantastic first-class high-tech facility and any additional capabilities you've got in the facility, but also the growth that you've experienced and where you're seeing that growth come from?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, and I guess I'll take a quick step back that the whole mission behind NeuroHope and what we are doing is the void in healthcare for complex injuries, high cost injuries. It's not just spinal cord injury, brain injury, stroke, like you said. It was life-changing for me, to say the least, not only for my personal injury and recovery, but also recognizing a different side of healthcare through a 2-year recovery process that I went through, and saying there's a better way to do, there's a better way to provide access for people that need it. Healthcare system's complex, we all know that. But so NeuroHope was started to work outside the boundaries of insurance allowances to really help high-cost individuals. So when I spoke to you a year ago, we had talked about how NeuroHope had grown over the really last 10 years, scaled multiple times, serving hundreds of people. And we were particularly excited last year through a partnership with paralyzed former IndyCar driver and team owner, Sam Schmidt, amazing man, amazing champion of the spinal cord injury community for decades. His nonprofit, Conquer Paralysis Now, uh, we partnered with them very proudly and renovated a 100,000 square foot campus here on the north side of Indianapolis. And we moved our clinical operations over there to really try to say, let's do something even beyond just physical therapy, occupational therapy that we provide. Let's move into adaptive sports. Let's create a comprehensive um, wraparound services for the disability community. Have a campus really that's going to reach a lot of people. So we were just moving in, I think, or close to it. Oh, we had moved in when I spoke with you last, but this last year it's been ramping up, scaling. We've grown services 30%, added service lines from the rehabilitation side, and now we're really proud to continue to work with Sam Schmidt and really take this campus. It's called the Driven Neuro Recovery Center. For those of your listeners that may be from the Indianapolis area, this used to be a huge sports complex. It's called the Five Seasons Building. Um, Tennis court wings, multiple levels, and there's really a roadmap for a lot of fellow organizations to do a lot of good.
Yeah, I remember being a member actually, and the concept was sort of like a combination of a sports and fitness facility and a country club. And so there
Oh,
was a membership but what that led to was on a really prime location in north side of Indianapolis, this fantastic building and campus, which I think what you're bringing to that facility, things work out the way they're supposed to. And it's just fantastic how it's opened up this new opportunity for you to be a world-class center because, hey, you need physical space to do what you do. And you need these kinds of training areas to help people with their recovery. So I'm so excited about what you guys have created and what you're building there. So when you look at the people who are taking advantage of NeuroHope, are they largely from the local area there, or are people coming in from all over the country now for that, get service?
yeah, great question. So really, since we've started, we've had folks come from other areas of the country. We've had several years ago, we've had people come from California, Massachusetts. The overwhelming majority are from the Indianapolis metro area. Now, moving into this new campus, and as we grow it, certainly expect more people to really be drawn to this facility because the footprint's larger, and word of mouth travels even beyond the state lines because so many people are affected by stroke, spinal cord injury, brain injury, and
Yeah.
um, the void in care happens fast. You leave the hospital in a couple weeks, and there's nothing left. So, as word of what we've been building for the last several years has grown to have really state of the art resources, um, we have new therapy interventions that are really some of which are not offered anywhere in the state. But the goal is to make these high cost interventions more available and accessible to more people. So as that word grows, we certainly get requests that have been coming in more. We have a wait list right now, but we do our best right now to navigate through that.
So taking care of an individual who is facing this type of a life altering challenge, it seems to me like, well, there are a few things that are coming to mind when I look at our audience and people that are innovators and looking for ways to advance healthcare. One is just the economics. You brought up that this is an expensive proposition to take care of folks that are facing these long term challenges, and that those individuals that are facing those challenges, many times, even when they have insurance coverage, that might be limited. And so you now are offering a self pay option, I think is what you said earlier. How does that work? And are typically people arriving that start with some type of an insurance, health insurance coverage that help to pay for this, and then they can continue on in some type of a self-pay model?
That's exactly the goal. Yeah, you're right. So we take insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, like any other outpatient facility. But the difference is after those insurance visits have been up, which can be up to 30 outpatient days for physical therapy, when you're dealing with the central nervous system injury, it's the same amount you have to recover from an ACL tear. What then? So the model we have is we work with a lot of kinesiologists who have master's degrees and are extremely trained that work hand in hand with our neuro PTs to have a better transition, to work with them at a much more affordable self-pay rate. And then we also have an adaptive fitness center, wheelchair adaptive fitness center, group classes to really ramp up the wellness side for going beyond that initial rehab to really help people with long-term quality of life. And we just wrapped up a 2-year research study. And I think I may have talked about this last year too, because we were in the middle of it, to really say, okay, let's put some data with all this evidence we have, because we're keeping people healthy. It's not rocket science, but when you're talking about high cost patients, we did a 2-year study that tracked readmission rates for people that participate in our programs, and significant results, up to 30% less urinary tract infections. I think it was 20% less muscle contractures, significantly less falls. So someone with a spinal cord injury, for example, 30% are readmitted to the hospital every year, costing healthcare systems hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're saying, all right, let's keep these people healthy beyond that initial rehab. And that's, I think, an area that I think our whole team is very proud of, to say, okay, we're doing something, we're saving healthcare in addition to helping people that need it. So that's been a new focus of what we're doing at this building. And we'll go beyond that. We want to work with adaptive sports, have a sports programs that we can do at this campus. So really growing it beyond that initial inpatient, outpatient rehab.
Well, that fits really well with the trend toward value based care and the model of it's not just about trying to react and treat in a way that waits for something bad to happen. It's about being proactive and preventing those bad things from happening. And as it turns out, doing that will save a lot of money in the healthcare system. And what you're talking about is I'm somebody who's recovering from a spinal cord injury, or I've got MS, or which is another one that you brought up during our discussion recently. That MS is another way that people with MS can benefit from NeuroHope. But in any event, once you're through the initial phases of rehab, you're not completely done with this. You still have certain challenges that can lead to, like you said, a fall. And somebody falls and they break their hip, or they have a worse head injury, or something else goes wrong, that leads to that person getting admitted through the emergency room, the highest cost entry point in the entire healthcare system, and then going through this series of treatments. And sometimes the dominoes can start to fall in a bad way where a lot of other things go wrong. And like you said, that one patient, from just an economic perspective, putting aside the very critical human aspect of this, they will generate hundreds of thousands of costs in the healthcare system that has to get paid for somewhere. So it stands to reason that a standard of care should be what you're pioneering and delivering on at NeuroHope. And the study that you did recently, is that something that our viewers could access? Is that published somewhere, or is it more of a private thing?
We're going to publish it. Yeah. So we just finished it up. It was through the University of Indianapolis and Marion University, funded by the Indiana Department of Health. And it will be published soon. We're working on that. Our team's working with Marion University to actually present it at a physical therapy conference as well, because I mean, it's data that we hope to be able to use to go after policy, go after donors, recognizing that beyond the anecdotal evidence of the people we're helping, hey, there's something tangible here for the healthcare system. I think hospitals, they recognize that there's an issue. Reimbursement rates are declining, um, costs are rising, so it's not an easy problem for hospital systems to fix. I think this week there was a study by the Indiana Hospital Association that kind of came out saying that, hey, you know, margins are only like 2% down. So it's like, how do you fix that? So we recognize it's the problem. And what we're trying to do is say, let's try to find a model outside of traditional healthcare, giving the people the care they need that can go beyond just neuro, and work with the right stakeholders, community partners to make a bigger effect. So um, it can go well beyond what we're doing here in NeuroHope is what we is I guess my point to that
Well,
tangent
it's a
you just went
care
on.
yeah, it's thinking about the individual's life beyond being an inpatient.
Yeah,
And
and recognizing that, not trying to attack hospitals or providers because it's a as you know, it's a hard problem to fix. So we're trying to say, let's look at an outside box way to ensure people get the right care and look at ways other than insurance reimbursement to get there.
so do your services extend out into the home, or is everything you're doing within the four walls really of the facility?
Yeah, we're outpatient, strictly outpatient. So we don't go to the home. We see a lot of folks that are at home or making a transition from a nursing home to home. And again, it helps them out even more because they come here and our team really has that continued care to get them to that next stage in life. But no, we're just in here. We have a gym atmosphere. We really try to make it seem we have music playing. It's the feel of, the community we've built here. It doesn't feel like a physical therapy gym. It feels like people that are here to for caregivers, patients to go well beyond the doctor's office and get you to the next step. And that's the culture that's been really powerful for us.
Yeah, that really jumps out when I listen to what you're describing. And just when I think about my own journey in life, which thankfully I've had great health and, really prioritize that, even though I do some things like go hella skiing and, things that are, maybe try to be as safe as I can within the boundaries of still living a little. But I think community is what makes life great. And you have all different kinds of communities that you're part of, whether it's the profession that you're in or the livelihood that you have or your family or your best friends, whatever that is, if you look around and you think, what makes you feel great? What makes you feel healthy? It's really that community. And it seems like that actually might be the soul of NeuroHope as I see this playing out, is that you're creating this connection around, hey, look, we have this adversity, but we're all in this to thrive. And the fact that you're coming from a perspective of, hey, this is not the end. You went through it. You personally, as the leader of this, have been through it. That is such a powerful position you have to show, hey, there's a future here. And that's why you obviously named it Neuro Hope, is that there is hope. But if you have connection with other people, I would think, I don't know necessarily you could study and measure that exactly and isolate that, but that part of just like the psychological power of being part of a community, knowing you're not alone, knowing these people are there for you and that you can turn to them and, have conversations and look at what they're going through. It's like almost a team that you've created and a community certainly of people that are lifting each other up. And that is freaking awesome. That might be the most awesome part of any of it. Like technology is great, but the people part of it, like that's what really makes the difference. Wouldn't you say?
Thanks for saying that, and you're right, and thanks for bringing that up as well. Because I'll tell you, anyone that goes through this will tell you the mental part, the mental journey of it, is even more hard to overcome than the physical part. And the community here does uplift everyone. And uh, I'll tell you a quick little story. We there's a patient here, a young man who's in high school, and he's gone through so much, and he had a setback, and was back in the hospital for a couple days. And when he was discharged from the hospital, he wanted to come directly here, not home. He wanted to come here first to see everybody. So
Wow.
it just
That's
shows
awesome.
you the community that our staff, the fellow patients, they're here for people, and that's what we want to show. You're not alone when you go through these injuries. So it's powerful.
That's really awesome. That's a great story. I was actually going to ask you if there were any people respond well and remember and are able to repeat stories that they hear. And in this case, if you can share the individual, the young man, I think you said it was, who had this setback, what was the general nature of their injury? I know without revealing anything specific about who it is.
Are you talking about the condition? What happened to the young
Yeah.
man?
What
It
happened
was
and
a
how,
spinal cord injury. Yeah,
okay.
it was a spinal cord injury from an auto accident. But we see folks that, you know, your life can change in a second. Yeah,
Yeah.
whether it's an accident or a stroke. We've seen a lot more stroke survivors, and they're living their life, and the next thing you know, retirement didn't quite go as planned, and the next thing you know, they're in a nursing home, and caregivers, family members, it really we changed their lives as well, and I see it every day. And it's really moving.
So Chris, on the technology side, what are some of the things that have been over the past several years emerging? I think about, like, if you look way out there, Musk has a company now that is doing this, brain level interfacing to try to reconnect synapses that have been damaged. Are there really exciting new developments you're seeing that over the next 10 years or so, similar to how AI is transforming everything we do? Are there technologies that you're excited about that you see emerging?
Absolutely, I think we're in a pretty exciting time for both spinal cord injury research and recovery. And the great irony is that even if the magic bullet happens next week, and you know Neuralink or Musk company comes up with a cure, guess what you're going to need? A whole heck of a lot more rehab. So, but to answer your question, yeah, it's a good segue because we recently are very thrilled to purchase through a donor a new therapy intervention that was actually featured on 60 Minutes recently, where it's called Onward Medical. They are using the first FDA cleared form of transspinal stimulation. And without going too far into the weeds, there are electrodes that are placed over the injury level for the spinal cord and also on the abdomen to try to send signals through the injury level. In addition to traditional neuromuscular electrical stimulation, if anyone's familiar with a TENS unit, you put electrodes on, stimulates the muscles, which is more traditional. Um, there are two different forms, and there's been a lot of research being done about implanting those electrodes through different electrical parameters. And they said, hey, we're finding ways that we're seeing efficacy outside the lab, so let's get these out to rehab centers. So we are one of, I think, the first 40 in the world that was able to secure this device, and to put it out on the floor, combining it with traditional stimulation. We're really excited to see how that progresses. We're going for a research study right now to do more in that arena. But certainly, there's different forms of treadmill training, robotics, but they're all high cost interventions that hospital systems they kind of look at it. They say, okay, this is a $500,000 piece of equipment that we're already looking at our budget. It's hard to justify the purchase of that. But in order to benefit from that, we're going to ensure the patient has access to it for 5 months. We're going to need to secure multiple clinicians to utilize it. And there's no possible way that's cost effective for these hospital systems or outpatient therapy centers. So the great irony is these technological innovations, in many cases, they're not even offered. So that's another conversation about what we're trying to do, to say, let's create avenues where the best resources are available and accessible to the people that need it. Because to really benefit from these, you might need months and years. It took me, I think I've told you this before, it took me um, over almost 2 years to raise my right hand above my head. So, I mean, neuro recovery, it's a process. So, we really want to make sure that all, like you said, all of the technological interventions that are going to be taking place over the next decade are going to be put in a place to help people.
So this neurostimulation that you described, that it's placed in two different areas, is it, like, simplifying it down to describing this like I'm a second grader in this,
Yeah.
that there's an electrical connection that's being established, and then does that help, like, regenerate the damaged nerve pathways, or what's the mode of action that's actually taking place clinically?
That's what they're trying to find out. So, so there's two forms. So think about traditional to be electrical stimulation. You put some electrodes on the muscle belly, kind of hits the muscles, the peripheral nerves, putting input into your nervous system up to that spinal cord. The idea is, let's see if they can send some signals over the spinal cord to assist with any volitional movement if it exists. And
I see.
what a lot of people have been seeing is there's a spinal cord injury that may be what's classified as complete, which means there's no motor sensory below that injury level. But suddenly, when their stimulation's on, they may have a little bit of movement there. when the stimulation's on. So, okay, there's something there. But there's been a lot more beyond that. There's been a lot of changes in. So when you have a spinal cord injury, you deal with body temperature regulation, the ability for bowel and bladder function. There's so much more beyond just walking that is involved, and they've seen that when that with that stimulation on, some of those secondary complications
I
um,
see. I see.
are changing. So there's a lot to learn about it, and we're not saying it's some magic cure that you put these electrodes on, you're going to be walking again. But it's certainly exciting to see what they're coming up with in the lab, and we're excited to be able to actually use them on the floor.
So a simplified way that hear what you're saying and how I would say it back is there's an ability to ignite the electrical, uh, the entire, let's just use a term that would be more for, electricity, like the electrical panel that's there, and find out all the different ways that there may be connection that aren't necessarily evident based on just the function of the individual at that time. But what you're starting to see is this can show, hey, there is actually some function that's there, but it just hasn't healed all the way. And maybe that's a way to really zero in on the rehab you should do, or the kinds of interventions that could lead to, uh, improving that individual's life, and the both physical and other bodily functions that they might be able to regain. Am I hearing that the right way?
Um, for the most part, yeah, and that's a pretty good way to explain it. And I know I gave a very high level kind of word salad about it too. But you're right. It's you know, for someone who's recently injured, and when the nervous system's still healing, I think there's being they're trying to research both. Say, let's see if there's still neuroplasticity is the idea of nervous system still healing itself in that recovery window. Um, so they say certainly if we're using if the brain's sending signals down over that injury level, can that benefit? But also, they're really looking at chronic injuries too. People who are years out from their spinal cord injury. For example, I have a lot of paralysis in my left arm. I can't move my left arm. That never came back. All the physical therapy, occupational therapy in the world isn't going to make this arm work again. But they're seeing that. Okay, let's see if assisting some of those signals. What are we seeing there? And
Right. Yeah.
there have been instances where they're saying they're seeing differences. So it's like maybe these injuries aren't as complete as
Right.
people thought they were.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. So you're boosting the signals and finding, hey, with that boost, there's still
yeah,
something.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah, that's an easy way to say it. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I
Well,
should.
it only
I'll
took
start
me
using
20
that when I
minutes.
try to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, hey, we're plugging this in, it boosts the signal to see if there is any
Yeah.
kind of a connection, even if it's still a little bit thin, the wire is still making the connection. So,
Mhm.
well, that does sound really exciting and promising. And, one of the things that's so cool about the world that we live in is that the pace of technological advancement is so rapid. And there are a lot of talented people that are applying that to healthcare and to helping humanity with health related issues. And longevity is a huge theme now. You look at the most listened to podcasts, I swear half of them are people telling you not to drink alcohol and to sleep a lot. And, people listen to that over and over again, which
An ice
is
bath.
certainly true. Yeah. Yeah. Ice baths, which I actually take a freezing
I,
cold shower every morning, and it
it's been
actually
that.
just helps wake me up. But I'm on board with all of that functional medicine and how do you have longevity. It seems like this is like a parallel thing, much more serious and nuanced, but how do you extend somebody's life and make it as fulfilling and successful as possible? And I definitely could see a future where there's this ability to run an analysis where you see actually that map and how all the nerves are connecting and where the injuries are. And right, if you just consider that, when I used to watch the Jetsons as a kid, I thought, no way could you ever actually just have a telephone where you could see the live video with somebody. That was this crazy thing. Lo and behold, that's just completely taken for granted now. And I believe those kinds of advancements are evidence that we're going to have these huge leaps in the future. Do you foresee a day where there's this advancement that's just leaps and bounds beyond, and spinal cord injuries and other health issues like strokes, MS, there is more of this ability to just do a map and make the connections and basically run a whole body reconditioning to where people might get back closer to how they were before the injury.
I think so. I mean, like I'm no neuroscientist, but I think, there's two ways that could happen. Is there a way to actually um, regenerate the nervous system? Or is there, through the scar tissue and all the primary and secondary issues that happen? That could be one. Who knows? That may be more complicated. But there are plenty of research trials that are finding that in different other organisms and different cells. Or is there a way to completely circumnavigate? I'm talking about spinal cord injury specifically, circumnavigate the injury level, like something like Neuralink that you mentioned earlier. That's
Right.
probably more feasible, but I mean, who knows? As we know, technology exponentially advances. So someday there will be some sort of cure. Who knows what that will be?
Well, today I know that there are capabilities where, for example, if you're quadriplegic and maybe even nonverbal, you can communicate using your vision and other, facial movements that actually a computer can recognize, and it allows you to communicate. And I think
Yeah,
that's fair. And so I bet that there are researchers who are working on, well, if we can do that with, verbalizing something, could we use those kinds of signals that you're capable of transmitting to do the thing where you say, okay, when I do this, there's this connection that allows me to use a limb or, and I'm big into the belief that you should have an abundance mentality. The future is much brighter than you think, and how do we envision what that future looks like? And it sounds like some of that future is starting to become feasible and more defined, but we're not quite to that point where you can, I guess, with a pretty consistent track record, predict how somebody's going to respond. It seems like a lot of this is you have to play it out, do all the best practices, and then some of it's just, in certain cases, people regain these functions and in others they don't. Is that fair?
yeah, I think so. Um, I mean, look at I mean, it's some of it's brain mapping. Figure out the point in the brain that controls, and there's a microchip embedded in there and has a signal that can bypass everything. And next thing you know, you recondition muscles. I mean, there's way beyond my level of neuro expertise, but I mean, society will get there someday. It might not be in my lifetime, but it will be there someday.
Well,
Right now,
right. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I say I'm just trying to make sure that when that day comes, let's make sure that people have enough therapy to make it happen. And
Right. That's what I was about to
there's
say is
amazing technology that we have in place right now that are helping people. We're seeing
right.
it every day, and even that's not sometimes available
Yeah.
in the proper settings. So,
Well, I think even just focusing exactly there on NeuroHope being that enabler, that is a really exciting mission, and let all of this incredible innovation happen around you and then picking the ones that are the most promising to put into practice with patients so they can benefit. You're that conduit because the traditional healthcare system just has so many other irons in the fire. It's hard to get the focus that's needed. So gosh, I really commend you for everything that you're doing, and just could not be more impressed by where NeuroHope's going.
well, thanks, Brad. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, and again, I want to also kind of just reference beyond NeuroHope. This what we're really trying to do with Sam Schmidt's foundation at this Driven Neuro Recovery Center, this campus, really tapping into adaptive sports, recreation, quality of life initiatives, and figuring out other organizations. And if any of your viewers, I know you have a lot of Indianapolis that's where a lot of your roots remain. I mean, there is a empty canvas at this huge campus that we really want to work with other organizations in this space to continue to make something really special in Indianapolis.
So a medical office building campus that is able to bring together all the best and brightest and emphasize this specific specialty, right?
Yes, certainly. I mean, we're thinking about the people that need assistance back to work, vocational rehab, counseling, mental health is huge. Um, DME providers, medical companies that we work with closely with. Just having a one-stop shop for this community in a campus that can serve a lot of people, well
That's an
beyond
outstanding vision.
NeuroHopes. Yeah.
Well, I'll help spread the word on that as well. Now, before we wrap, though, you have another really unique distinction in that you actually have both national title football contenders in your history as a student. Talk to us about your
Yeah.
Miami and, most importantly, Indiana Hoosier connections before we wrap up here.
Oh man, I'm all IU. I'm all IU. So yeah, I've been a diehard IU fan since I was a kid, let alone going be an undergraduate student there. But I did get my master's at the University of Miami. So it was pretty cool. I never in a million years thought that they would be playing each other. I remember when the playoff came out, I was like, there could be a scenario where they're playing. But a lot of people were asking that, well, who you got? I was like, no,
Yeah.
no consideration. Sorry. I love Miami. It's a great
Yeah.
city, great school, but what a time to be a Hoosier.
What a time to be a Hoosier. It's fantastic. We were lucky enough to be at that game, and it still is hard to fully appreciate just what a huge historic moment this is for the Indiana Hoosiers, and really what this football program is doing to boost the university and the state. It's not just about sport, it's about something bigger than that. So, well, very glad that you, Chris, are a fellow alumni of Indiana University. Love to get that little trivia out that you got an advanced degree from the University of Miami. But of course, IU is in your blood going way back. So, hey, my friend, well, really thankful that we got you back on a year after the first time on. Really exciting to see that you're growing double-digit percentage per year over year with the patients that you're seeing and helping, and also that you're expanding this vision that you have with the campus there in Indianapolis. So let's definitely keep the lines of communication open and just keep doing the fantastic work that you're doing, my friend.
Thanks so much, Brad. I really appreciate you having me on again. Always so amazing to talk to you. Much appreciated.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for being part of the Bostic Health community and supporting and getting tuned into these really cool innovations that are coming from entrepreneurs like Chris Leeuw. This is episode 60 of Bostic Health. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.